Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting this September 19th, 2017. We have 6 of 7 Planning Commissioners in attendance, with Commissioner Judy Hansen excused this evening. We appreciate your patience with our tardy start. We were in our pre-meeting wanting to ensure that we understood all angles of the applications and that we can do our jobs to the best of our ability for the benefit of the citizens of West Jordan. We have one item of business on our consent calendar, which consists of the minutes from September 5th, 2017. Commissioner Green.
I move that we approve the minutes from September 5th, 2017.
Commissioner Sikoski.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Green and a second by Commissioner Sikoski. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0, which brings us to our first public hearing this evening. Light Workers Properties, 8415 South, 4300 West, conditional use permit for junkyard, salvage yard, towing service in an M1 zone. Light Workers Properties, Dan Ackley is the applicant. Is he here this evening? Please feel welcome to come forward and present your application, sir.
Hello. We've been operating since 2011, and it came under our attention that the conditional use permit we had wasn't the correct one, so we've applied to correct that.
Very good. Short and to the point. We like that. Thank you very much. We'll reserve some time for you if anything else comes up in the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'd like to welcome Lisa Elgin, new planner for our city. Welcome. We're glad you're here tonight, and you have this item for the City of West Jordan this evening, correct?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
The subject property is 0.79 acres in size. It's zoned M1, as we discussed earlier. Scroll. I'm sorry. As you can see, the project site there is located very centrally in the M1 zone and is designated light industrial. The zone itself is buffered by a lot of open space to the north, the west, and the south, and there is about half a mile between the subject site and the residential properties to the east. There's a site plan here in case you wanted to get any reference on it. As Mr. Ackley said, that the business has been in operation since 2001. It was the conditional use permit was mistakenly issued at that point, and they're just trying to correct the issue now. I have a picture here. It's not a very good picture on this big screen. You can see this is the street view of the building, the existing building, and there are 2 gates to the north on the left and 2 gates to the south on the right that are pretty much identical. They are screened from street view. They are completely opaque gates. There doesn't seem to be any impact at all, visual impact from the business. As far as I know, there's not been any complaints from neighboring businesses. It's completely surrounded by other industrial businesses. So,
Great, thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
So it's staff's opinion that we're just bringing things into compliance for
Yes.
code. There hasn't been any other issue.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Any other questions for staff at this time?
I was just going to ask why there's so many police cars parked out front, but never mind.
Any other questions for staff this evening? Seeing none, we'll open this to the public. If you would like to speak on this item, you're welcome to come to the podium and state your opinions. And seeing none, we'll close the public comment section and bring it back to the Commission for deliberation leading to a possible motion. Commissioner Green.
I move that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for Light Workers property located at 8415 South, 4300 West, in the M1 zone, subject conditions 1 and 2, as listed in the staff report on the top of page 2.
Thank you. Commissioner Luthi.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Green and a second by Commissioner Luthi. Is there any discussion to that motion? Well, let's vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. Thanks for making things right for the city. Appreciate it. That brings us to our second public hearing this evening. which is Oker West, 7800 South, 7100 West, preliminary subdivision plat and preliminary site plan, 77 lots on 4.4 acres in a PC zone. Holmes Homes, Patrick H. Holmes, is the applicant. Would you like to present this evening?
Thank you, we would. Mike Kelly, I'm the land planner working with Holmes. We've been here before and we're happy to be back. We are presenting the preliminary plat this evening, and it is basically in compliance with the conceptual plans that you've seen before and were approved. This is that preliminary plat. This is the concept plan that you have seen previously, but we have modified it. In the process of our work on the preliminary plat, we discovered that there was an easement along this eastern boundary for the power line that is there. We knew the easement was there, but we determined that it has a specified width of 50 feet. And so what we ended up doing is illustrated on this slide. No? Okay, there. And so that power line sets within this 50-foot easement, 25 of which is ours. The poles are about 10 feet inside our property, so that encroaches into our property about 35 feet. So we have proposed putting a trail corridor along there and putting in an 8-foot wide trail that would meander down through that corridor. And it would connect with the trail that is further to the south in the new Sycamores project down on the southern end. Hey, where do I need to point? Then, in addition to what we have done before, we have now prepared landscape plans for the townhome product. This is the first parcel and is the layout plan, and then we have the next slide is landscape plans for that. And so we've just gone into some more detail for the development of those. We are looking for approval for all of our townhome product as far as the site plan is concerned, and we have prepared the planning plans for the phase 1 product. And then go to a couple more slides, and we have the landscaping for the park that will be included in phase 1. That's the other townhome product. And there's the park that will be developed as part of phase 1. Now with the power line corridor that we encountered, we did make some changes to the plan, and it resulted in the loss of 4 lots. We had 435 lots total approved in the concept phase, and we're at now 431. The density is the same. It does increase the open space a little bit by increasing this, by providing this open space corridor with the trail. We were at 15.818% of open space, and now we have 15.6% with a reduction in the total number of lots. So I think that's kind of a summary of an overview of what we have done since we were here last and how the plan has been affected.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Green.
I don't know which picture I want to look at. Can we bring up one of most of the project? That one will work. So the question that I have is, we've got that commercial on this screen, the bottom right-hand corner. Mm-hmm. Are there any, and this will go back to some discussions we've had the last few weeks, are there any, is that commercial area connected to the rest of the area with sidewalk? Are there sidewalks that run from, in front of it and into it?
There are. Yes,
Okay.
there are.
It's hard to see from that picture, and that's why I'm
Right.
asking.
New Sycamore Drive extends to the north from the roundabout, and there are sidewalks on both sides of that street. There will be a walk on the north side of 7800 South, and then that one that comes right here through this neighborhood will have walks on both sides, and those extend into the
Okay,
commercial area.
I just want to make sure that we're meeting the intent of a PC by having some walkability through into the commercial and those kind of things.
Yes.
'Cause
We
we've
would
had some others that
anticipate
haven't.
also this new proposed trail to come down along here and down along that edge of the commercial side as well. So we can pretty well loop around that
Okay,
commercial side.
and so with that trail on the north side, will that and I noticed from one of the designs you had an 8-foot wall. Are you going to have some openings that go into the commercial area from the outside?
We would not anticipate any walls along the commercial
Okay.
area, only the residential.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? We'll reserve some time for you if you'd like to address anything that might come forth during the public comment section. Thank you. And Mr. McCandless, you have this item for the city?
Thank you. Members of the Planning Commission, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's now been through, as I mentioned, the pre-meeting, the rezoning, the future land use map amendment. They've also been through the preliminary development plan, which is approved by the City Council. You've seen that as well. As we mentioned earlier, the concept plan is required to be submitted along with the preliminary development plan. But in this case, it's been through so many changes that when you saw it during the preliminary development plan, it was pretty well baked. It was at the level that we would normally see a preliminary development plan. So as the applicant mentioned, there are no significant changes to this, to the entire the site. There was just a reduction in the 4 lots, as was mentioned. The other thing that we really liked was the addition of that trail along along U-111. I think we've got kind of an overhead that shows that. This looks like kind of a mess, but this is just directly this is out of our trails master plan. These are basically bike lanes here in the gold. We do have along the Sycamores an established trail that's here, but our plan didn't show a trail continuing up along U-111. But there is a trail that's projected for here. It's further to the north, but we think this would be a great addition along U-111 just to get pedestrians north and south along, protected trailway along that busy street. So we really think that this is a positive change to that. Aside from that, there really aren't any changes. It's still at the church site. There's the clubhouse, swimming pool, and the open space, the soccer amenity. Really aren't any changes. So our recommendation would be for approval. I think the engineering department just has one minor one issue that was discussed in the pre-meeting. I think we can talk about that just a little bit.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Okay, try this one. As we discussed in the pre-meeting, you'll see a couple of roads that run north and south, and they terminate right at the north boundary of the property. And the north boundary of the property has a Kennecott railroad track that runs along there. And the road on the right, New Sycamore Drive, that's the one that is a master plan road. It's key to our future circulation in the area. And it's going to be important to be able to get that road to cross the railroad tracks. There's a lot of unknowns regarding that at this point, whether that future road would be allowed to be constructed as an at-grade road or whether it would be required to be separated, a grade-separated crossing. We don't even know what Kennecott's, and neither do they really, will say what their long-range plan is for that railroad corridor. So we want to keep our options open, and we've prepared a additional condition of approval that we'd like to have included in the Planning Commission's action, should they choose to approve the site plan. We've shared this condition with the applicant. They agree to it and are supportive of that. And basically, it just allows that before we go too far with final design on Phase 3, and that we do some analysis to look at some options, some design options, so that if we have to amend this preliminary plat for the road to, changing some of the roads and lots, we can do that and have that flexibility to do that as we get further into the design process.
Well, thank you. And with it being such an important corridor, does it allow for future growth of that road, the width that we have there?
Yeah, it's designed as a collector road. It's a collector road on our master plan, which is designed for a certain volume of traffic, and that's how it's currently designed here, and that's how it would not have to be increased at any time in the future.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. McCandless or Mr. Nelson? Commissioner Green.
So how would this affect, the written stuff that we have says that it would affect Phase 1. How would this affect Phase 1 specifically?
We don't know that it would, but if the road were required to be grade separated, then right now the tracks are built up higher. They're on kind of a berm, and the road comes in from a lower grade. And the road would probably have to be designed to dip down underneath the tracks. So in doing that, you've got some transitional slopes and elements that might affect, may cost a few lots, quite frankly. And so, those are the things that we just want to make sure that if we get into those realities, that it's not a surprise and that it's something that we saw coming.
Thank you. Anything else for staff?
Yeah, I just want, so right now, New Sycamore Drive, based on this design, it's going to terminate at the railroad tracks. But is that right?
That's correct.
And we plan on that going through. And so what we've got to plan for the future is how that's going to go through.
That's correct.
Okay. So they could stop and still build Phase 1, but Phase 3 is the one that's really going to get messed up.
Yes.
Okay.
Which, just to double check and clarify with the schematic that we have, it would be in chronological order of phases that the applicant has presented that they would build this out, starting with 1 and going in ascending order.
That's our assumption. I think the applicant could ask to change that at some point, but that's our assumption.
Okay, thank you. That's what it's planned right now, but it's subject to change. Okay, thank you. This was also noticed as a public hearing, so if there's anyone that would like to speak on the Oquirrh West application, please feel free to come to the podium at this time. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment section, bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Quinney.
Doesn't seem like anybody has anything to say, so I would like to make a motion based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today. I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary subdivision plat and preliminary site plan for the Oquirrh West plan, community generally located at 700 South and 7100 West, with the conditions included in the staff packet as well as the one that we were presented in the pre-meeting that reads preliminary analysis should take place to determine whether the lot and street layout on Phase 1 would be affected by the future railroad crossing, and Phase 3 shall not be granted final approval until the nature of this railroad crossing is determined and the preliminary design work is accomplished so that the final layout of lots could be adjusted to accommodate the future road construction. That would be condition 4 for both the site plan and the subdivision.
Thank you. Commissioner Sikoski.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Quinney and a second by Commissioner Sikoski. Discussion to the motion, please. Commissioner Green.
I would like to add a condition 5 that the solid wall along the trail ends at the west side of the commercial property. They said they didn't anticipate it. I just want to make that a condition. The applicant. Was it the east? No, I'm talking about the west side. Stop right there.
Yeah, that's the east side.
Oh, is that the east?
Yeah, this is west, this way, you're turned backwards.
I'm turned around. Did it stop?
Right here, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the east side.
So I'm talking about. Stop right there.
Yeah, it's the east side of the commercial property.
Okay, it's the east side of the commercial property. I'm turned around 180 degrees.
Okay, do you want to articulate that again, and then we'll go to Mr. McCandless.
So the condition would be that the wall along the trail ends at the east end of the commercial property. Basically what I'm saying is that the wall stops. The applicant said they didn't anticipate a wall there, and if they can save some costs, I'm sure they don't want to put a wall there, but I think just from the walkability and the visibility and everything and the tie into the trail, we just want.
With the residential.
That's right. It ends with the residential, and that's what I'm trying to put across.
Thank you. Discussion relative to that or any other item?
We gotta see if he's amenable to change to his motion.
I'm okay with that change.
Okay, so we have because we never had a second. So, you did second it, that's right. So this was the discussion in the motion. Okay, so we have you're accepting that friendly amendment and the second as well, Commissioner Sikoski?
Yes, I second that.
Great. Is there any other discussion to that amended motion? Well, let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0 on this item. Which brings us to the last item on our agenda. Ganson Lane, 8661 South Redwood Road, preliminary subdivision plat, 48 lots on 5.7 acres, and preliminary development plan establishing a density of 8.5 units per acre in a PRDH zone. Alpine Homes LLC, Stephen Jackson is the applicant. Please come forward and present your application.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for giving us this opportunity to present this real quick for you. I'll just run through really quick, and I'm not sure where it works better, but if you guys have any questions as we move through, feel free to chime in, and I'll try to answer them the best I can, okay?
Thank you.
So in our initial discussions with this project, obviously it's located right off of Redwood Road, which is pretty close to the center of the city. So anything we put here is obviously going to be, it's either going to help the community or it's going to cause some issues with the community. So what we wanted to do is try to assess the city's goals and objectives the best that we could in our conversations with planning commissioners, city councilors, and with the planning staff and engineering staff as well. So we noticed some of the issues that they wanted to focus on was to attract more permanent residents in the neighborhood, or in the city. So residents that would be here long term, that wouldn't be living here for a few years and then moving out and renting their home. And they wanted to limit the amount of multifamily pieces that could obviously lend to that. Also attract more commercial in the area, beautify the community, improve the Redwood Road corridor, and improve traffic conditions and the connectivity throughout the city. So I just wanted to address these and show how our project kind of tackles those goals. First of all, trying to gain those residents that are going to be here long term, we really put an effort into focusing on our buyer profile. We sent out some surveys to some of our existing buyers in similar subdivisions, asked them, what attracted them to the community, What are the things that are going to keep them there long term? One of the things we notice with our buyer profiles is the people who are purchasing our homes are young professionals, empty nesters, and young families that are really trying to put down roots somewhere. So with that being said, we wanted to obviously provide community features that are going to keep these people here long term. Obviously, being in a PRDH, that requires several amenities to be placed in this community. So some of the things that we're going to be including will be gated community, which we determined if you have residents they're going to want to live in that section of Redwood Road, they're probably going to want it gated. There's a lot of bus traffic and foot traffic coming by, and in our general discussions, we determined, it just takes, one drunk person to pass out in the tot lot for them to, start thinking about moving out. So we thought gating the community here was probably the best way to go. Keep it nice, and obviously have an HOA that will have higher fees, that'll maintain the front yards, that'll maintain the overall community, and keep it looking nice. That way we can obviously justify the price point in the homes that we're in as well. So with that, we'll put a jogging trail, a sports court, a tot lot, we'll have some open space and some picnic areas, really just to kind of generate a community feel, give a place, a public, private area for the HOA residents to really come and socialize. Another aspect of it was to focus on the connectivity and improve the traffic conditions, and we're doing that by extending Gardner Lane, which currently stubs right into Redwood Road and then does not continue on through to the east side of Redwood Road. So we'll be making that connection, and that will actually put a collector road through that section of town that will improve traffic between 1300 West and Redwood Road. I'm not sure how many people have been on Redwood Road or 1300 West during rush hour, but 1300 West, it's only 2 lanes either direction. It backs up pretty frequently. So if you put this through, it gives them another option to come through the Redwood Road side to get to their houses in that area. So just to kind of give you an idea, this is the road that we're talking about. Right now it's just a vacant lot with a house right here at the end. So this house will be demolished, and then we'll actually push this road through to connect through on the long term of that area. So focusing on the city code, where it speaks of density, obviously the density in the PRDH allows for us to do somewhere between 5.6 and 10 units per acre based on the amenities that we provide. So I wanted to quickly look at some of the surrounding communities. Dove Meadows, just to the east, is 52 units. That puts them at about 7.1 units per acre. You have these twin homes to the south. There's about 122 twin home units that were built probably in the mid 80s, early 90s, and that's is creeping up near 10 units per acre, but it's at 9.2. And then for us, 48 units on our 5.75 acres will put us at 8.4 units per acre. So some of the architecture and design of these houses, like we were saying, the idea is to obviously create a product that can absorb some density, but at the same time be high enough end that you can have some long-term residents. These are the exact homes that we've built in Midvale over by Topgolf in a subdivision called East Riverwalk, and we also have 2 communities in Bluffdale right now where we've sold these as well. So they've actually been, selling somewhere around the mid 3s, and some of them, depending on the options, will creep up. I think the highest one was about 380. So it's a pretty significant home price for what they are. So you can see the interior here. We do a really good job of trying to modernize the inside. Obviously, it's a smaller home, but we still provide a large kitchen, which is a big selling point for people moving into these types of communities. This is just a quick view of some of our elevations that are fully rendered. We obviously have our craftsman style, prairie style, and traditional style elevations here, just to provide some variety throughout the community. And just quickly, like I was saying, we have these 4 different elevations. Then because we've added a farm style recently, and this is actually what our model home is now down in Bluffdale, and it has a really nice look to it, and we've received a lot of positive feedback from our customers on this style. So here's your basic floor plan. You come in, there's a 2-car garage, you have your family and dining downstairs, your entryway, mudroom, downstairs bath. You have 3 bedrooms upstairs with a master suite, and then each of these will also include an unfinished basement that residents can choose to finish as well as an option. This is our larger model. Obviously, this one's nearly 2,400 square feet. That's finished square footage. You'll have a basement with that as well. Like I said, same. This is actually our previous model home down in Bluffdale, which shows the prairie-style Arrowwood. And this is just some more interior shots to kind of give you an idea of the type of product that we're building there. Once again, some more elevations that kind of just show the overall product that we'll be putting there, farm style as well. And so as part of the condition of this project, we're going to require that homes be built separated by a floor plan or an elevation to kind of provide variety so you don't have cookie cutters throughout the whole community and everything looking the same. We also have a smaller product right now that we still have this out to our drafter, but this is an example from our Portland community. It's a little bit skinnier product, but it still gets you to a little over 2,000 square feet, and you have a 600 square foot basement. So you're about 2,600 square feet. This one's a little bit more entry level, but given the crunch in affordable housing in the area, we thought it'd be necessary to include that as well, especially on those lots that are directly up against Redwood Road. This kind of gives you an idea of what the front elevation will look like, and there's some similar product being built in Midvale right now, but ours is a little bit different as we provide all the main floor living. Just quick example of color schemes to kind of show you that we'll be doing a lot of earth tones and nothing outlandish. So that's just kind of encouraging a wide variety of single-family structures. We won't be doing any multifamily structures as we've been told by the city that that's what they'd like to avoid in this area. Here's your general site plan that kind of shows the community. You have a jogging trail, obviously, that kind of connects to the existing sidewalk that allow for jogging, working out, and just interconnectivity throughout the community. And obviously, we wanted to try to add as many amenities as possible to really create a social gathering area for the community. So with that, you can see we're going to put a sports court in, a picnic pavilion, and a tot lot. The placement of these is not finalized yet, as we're still trying to figure out exactly where we need this detention basin, but this will be the pretty basic layout with maybe a couple changes. This is your general landscaping plan of each lot. Each lot will require a tree in the lot in the front there as well. The detention basin obviously would be landscaped. This is a little bit steeper slope than what we'll be doing. Our landscape detention basin will actually act as a secondary detention basin and can work as open space and a playing field as well. Just another, I guess my time's up. So just kind of quickly move through these as well. I'm doing some a picnic pavilion, obviously a tot lot. Here's some renderings of the options that we're looking at for that. Once again, a picture here of an example of an asphalt 6-foot paved jogging trail that we'll be putting in. Potential for a sports court, probably a half-court basketball court is what we're thinking right now. And then obviously some barbecue grills, kind of sparse throughout the area, but also in the picnic pavilion area for people to enjoy a Saturday afternoon barbecue. And obviously dog waste station, so people taking their dogs on a walk on that jogging trail will be able to have the proper facilities to dispose of animal waste as well. So, and then finally along Redwood Road, we'll be doing a 6-foot masonry wall with landscaping in front of it. So we'll be actually pushed back from Redwood Road another 5 feet to allow some bark dust and some shrubs and other taller hedges in front of it to really kind of add some beauty and variety along Redwood Road. And that is the basic overall plan there. So any questions on that before?
Thank you. Yes, we have some questions for you, please. Okay. Commissioner Sikoski.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'd just like some clarification. The plat that's in the staff packet is different than what you gave us in the development plan. The development plan's up. It shows the sports court and the pavilion and the tot lot. But in the plat that you gave us, I'm not seeing a sport court or really any of that. The pathway looks like it's changed quite a bit.
And yeah, like I was mentioning, that comes down to exactly where we're going to put the detention pond. So basically, our engineer has been working out different calculations on storm drain, based on the impervious surface and exactly where that needs to be located and exactly where the grade of the product is. So we do plan on including all of those things, but the placement of them right now is just not finalized. So.
Thanks. Larry, maybe you can answer this. If the sport court is not on the plat, are they still held to have to do that?
Yes, they'll do it because he's committed to it in his
It's in the
development plan and also what he's presented here tonight, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Green.
I've got a couple of questions, and a couple of them may be pointed.
Okay.
Can you go back to your first plan on the Alpine home?
The first.
One of these.
Okay.
So the ordinance requires, and if you look at, this one will work, the ordinance requires that garage doors not comprise more than 50% of the ground floor street facing linear building frontage. If I'm looking at that design, that garage door is 75–80% of your frontage.
You're correct, but it does also say in the provision that garage door treatments can be used as an exception of that. So
If it's approved by the administrator, but, okay.
correct, yeah. So that's essentially what we'd be working with there is obviously providing some sort of garage door treatment, such as windows, some sort of decorative brackets on the side to make it a little bit more, make it prettier from the street view, of course.
Okay. And then, in a subdivision this small, how's a 6-foot sidewalk a jogging trail? I'm just trying to figure that out.
Well, the 6 foot, let me go back to it here. Let's see if we can find it. So you have your, obviously your 6 foot sidewalk that comes around. This portion of it is the jogging trail, and it also connects down to here as well. To come through the sides of these buildings. The idea is that you can utilize both, basically the sidewalk and the jogging trail to kind of create some connectivity. And we mapped it out, so the section here and the intersection, if you do 5 laps there, that's a mile. If you come across and then cross over down here, you can do 4 laps and that's a mile. So we were going to obviously include some signage along the points of this jogging trail as well to kind of show what mile markers they're at.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? So those were 2 of my questions when you were mentioning the potential for a sport court, and then I was going to address that same thing. How do you make it a circuitous route if you're just jogging along there? You mentioned some of your demographic, a main demographic is young families, so you've got the tot lot. What about sizes of yard? Just trying to see, is there any other, because you've got the 5-foot setback with the masonry wall, but that's on the outside. Is there any other place for an older child? What would they be doing?
Yeah, so if you look, in size of the main yards in terms of the individual lots, or?
Yeah, I guess, well, you've got the detention pond where,
You can play soccer,
they
or
could be
frisbee
kicking
out
a ball
here.
and throwing a ball there.
Obviously, basketball, we'll have a basketball court for that. Each one of these individual lots will have about a 20 to 30 foot backyard. So you have some extra backyard space that you can obviously, use to your own discretion. So our plan with that was to basically have it so they would basically gate off their backyard from the back of the house back to the back of the lot. This would all remain open and be maintained by the HOA, so the frontages of the homes would keep an element of beauty to them.
And then just have the vinyl fencing on the backyards
Right,
inside.
back corner to the back of the lot.
What about the clearance for cars of good size to be able to park in a driveway and not overhang on a sidewalk?
Yeah, we actually went over this in probably about an hour with Larry measuring out different cars, and we went with the assumption if everybody owned a Ford F-350 in this neighborhood, how would that product work? So basically, with that being said, they're going to be about, depending on the lot, about 20 to 22 feet back from the back of the sidewalk will be the setback on the side on the driveway. If everybody owned a Ford F-350, they're about 23 feet long. We don't anticipate everybody owning one of those, but the modern standard sedan, four-door sedan, is about 15 feet long, so you have about 5 to 7 feet of clearance there, depending on how closely they park to the garage, obviously. So we thought about that in quite a bit. Originally we talked to engineering and they wanted to have a park strip in there. We like the idea of the park strip. We like the way it looks, but on a community this small, it made sense to just have the sidewalk right up against the road to allow more clearance for your driveway.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Green?
I'm back. I just thought of something. Will you go to your slide that had a big number 7 on it? It's probably back one.
This one?
How is this a broad range of housing types? They're all 2,200 square foot homes. Single.
Well, they go up from 2,400 down to 2,000. So I mean, they're all different price
That
points.
just doesn't seem broad range to me.
I agree with you. The thought here was what really fit better along Redwood Road was townhomes, but we've been instructed by numerous people in the city and the city council that they wanted to avoid multifamily. So
Would you go to slide number 9, the one that has number 9 on it now?
yeah.
If the open land is for the general benefit of the community and public, how does a gated community accomplish that goal?
And so that's the thing is, it basically, it's either for the public or the private, and that's one of the inconsistencies in the city code with PRDs that we ran into. So that's where you have to run into, basically where you have to apply for a conditional use permit to gate it and everything like that.
But
that's kind of where we came.
You're providing, this is my perspective, you're
Right.
providing a statement and evidence to this commission that says you meet this, yet you don't.
Well, it's a general benefit of the community, as in the people moving into those homes.
And public at large, and so, okay.
Right. I mean, obviously, agree to disagree on that one, but I mean, there is some discrepancy in the city code on that, so.
Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Hatch?
Thank you, Chairman. Where does visitor parking happen if families come and want to park? It doesn't, from the plat, it doesn't look like there's room for visitor
Yeah,
parking.
so we looked into the visitor parking on that. Let me see if I can get back to the plan here. Oh, it's actually this direction. So the idea is we made the streets wide enough. We're actually about 3 feet wider than what the city code requires. And the main reason behind that is to allow for parking on the sides of the roads and for along some of the open space areas. And based on our discussion with the planning staff and the engineering staff, they felt that we met the parking requirement. We do have a 2-car garage with 2-car spaces on the driveways themselves and areas where you can park in front of each house. As we swing each garage in opposite direction, you have a 30-foot span in between every other lot that allow for street parking.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right.
Okay,
Thank you for your time. We'll reserve some time for you. Did you have something, Commissioner?
Right, I
Lee?
do have one question.
We've got one more. But this way you got a chance to walk around a bit.
Yeah, not a problem.
Sorry, I was looking at your dimension plan.
Yeah.
And you had talked about taking out the park strip, but I'm still seeing one in here. I'm seeing 3 and then 4. Is that?
Yeah, so that is the older drawing, and we've got the newer one submitted to the city, but it just did not make it in time to this because we had to submit this a week early.
Okay.
Our engineer had an issue where essentially he said his power had gone out in their building, and so they didn't get it over to us until Friday. So it didn't make it into this or your packet, so I apologize for that. But the new updated plan shows a 6-foot sidewalk.
So you reduced it by a foot.
The general overall right-of-way is reduced by a foot. So instead of a 4-foot sidewalk and a 3-foot park strip, you go to a 6-foot sidewalk, which based on the appendices and the bridge and road standards, on the city's website, that's what it shows for a private street. It shows a 6-foot sidewalk directly up against the road, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Great, thank you. We'll go to our staff. Mr. Gardner, you have this evening?
I really don't have anything to add. I think the applicant's done an excellent job, and so if you have any questions of me, I'll be happy to answer them, so.
Did this go through DRC at some
Yes,
point?
it
I just
did.
didn't see anything in the
Yes,
packet.
I
I
did.
recall that it
The
did.
last meeting it went through.
Was it last month? That's what I thought. There just wasn't anything in the new one.
And they recommend approval, so.
Right. How about for Bill Baranowski, our traffic guru, being on Redwood Road, lots of units, 48, potentially doubling that number with, cars, 2 cars going in and out, Redwood Road. Talk to us.
Okay, we have a agreement with UDOT to put in a traffic signal at this location at such time that it's warranted. And you probably would ask further, at what year do we expect that to happen? And if you look at our crystal ball, we can estimate that would be not sooner than 4 years, and maybe even further, based on similar locations. But there is potential for a traffic signal at this location, which would, connect the city and connect the neighborhood. And we do have a lot of complaints about cut-through traffic on existing streets that go from 13th West to Redwood Road, and I think this would create kind of a target for people to say, hey, this is probably the best location on this master plan street. If you look at the existing street is already 41 feet wide of asphalt on the half that's closer to 13th West, and it's about 36 feet or to 38 feet wide of asphalt as you get closer to Redwood Road. And if you look at the drawing that shows the intersection with Redwood Road, we plan a full intersection with left lane, through lane, and a right turn lane. And it lines up as best as we can to the existing Gardner lane on the west side. And we do expect that when this intersection is fully constructed in the future, we would widen at least 15 feet on the west side of the intersection. But this portion that you see, Larry, can you go to that drawing that shows the site plan? Yeah, this shows it better. It doesn't show the west side of Redwood, but essentially the through lane lines up with the through lane on the other side, and the left turn on the, if you're going eastbound, very closely lines up with the left lane going westbound on Gardner Lane. We do encourage pedestrians to cross Redwood Road at controlled intersections, so that this would create a new pedestrian crossing point that's at least a half a mile from 90th South, or is that quarter mile? Anyway, do you have any other questions about this?
So just to double check, because that's the point of ingress and egress, but the other two, could we go to the slide that was shown just before this, please, Larry? Thank you. Oh, yep, there we go. So the two that are below, those would stop, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Those are required by fire to, would they both have gates, or just one of those would have a gate? I think one would terminate and face a wall.
One would terminate. What about the other one? Because we've got the Gardner Lane point of ingress and egress, but what about those other two? What one's a gate, the other one would just be a wall? I assume it would be the furthest one down that would be the gate.
Yeah, the one that's furthest to the south would have it would be a limited access, whether it's gates, bollards, whatever it may be, and it will have an approach. I just want to point that out. But the north one is just a dead end.
Right, and of course, it would be a adequate turnaround hammerhead for fire trucks. You've already studied that out.
Yes, yeah.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Green?
So this is directed to Mr. Gardner. I don't see anywhere in their proposal what their thematic lighting is, that they're trying to get a 0.15 upgrade in density. Did they provide that to us?
Yes, I have that. And so it's a, remember the lighting at Applecross, the cottages at Applecross is similar to that. So.
And what architectural features are they claiming for the 0.15 density?
I'll let the applicant answer that.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, I apologize to not address that earlier. Basically, we're proposing some hardy board to really shore up some of the faces of it, make the homes look better from a street view. Obviously, around the edges here as well, where the homes would be visible from main streets, obviously along Gardner Lane and along Redwood Road. We'd also be doing hardy board and batten along the eaves, do some window treatments along those as well. And then obviously, from a frontage standpoint, we're going to be including a little bit more stonework to, obviously, improve the street appeal.
So while we got you back up here, one more time, go to the last design that you showed.
Which one?
The very last one, the one from Portland.
From Portland? Okay.
I'm going to ask you how that one meets city code with a porch that's supposed to be 8 by 6.
8 by 6?
Uh-huh. That doesn't look 8 feet wide to me, or 6 feet wide. That looks like about a 3 foot.
We are widening this one a little bit. And basically what we're working on right now is this is with the drafter. And so he's working on that to work on the city code to meet that requirement.
Okay.
And what is the minimum setback, as we have that picture up? 5 feet? Is that what we're doing here?
Yes.
Between homes, 5 feet, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the absolute minimum per city code. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant or staff? Sorry, for city staff. All right, we will open this up to the public. If you would like to comment on this item, please feel welcome to come forward and state your name for the public record, and you'll have 3 minutes to present your opinions.
Hi, my name is Diane Mendenhall, and I live on 8740 South. Really don't have any comments, I just questions.
And if you could please direct your comments to the commission, just so we can get it recorded as well for public that might want to listen to it.
I'm kind of just curious. I live on 8740 South, and so I've been nominated to come ask the questions. Along that south edge of the whole property there, it's just all lined with big, huge trees. Are those big, huge trees going to come down? And then what kind of fence will be put along that south side?
Okay, we'll make sure we get to that. Thank you.
That was all. Thanks.
That's all? Well, that was quick and easy. Thank you very much. Anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public comments and bring it back. Let's please get an answer to that. Regarding the south end trees and fencing, just to double check on that. Would we be losing trees? If we could have the applicant come back up and address that.
We've instructed to maintain as many of the existing trees as possible. Where it is not possible due to construction issues, some of those would be torn down. We are proposing an 8-foot white privacy vinyl fence along this southern border as well. There's already an 8-foot fence existing along here, and so we would just keep it constant throughout the community.
Great, thank you. So back to staff, could we recommend a masonry fence instead of vinyl? You know how we're trying to get away from as much vinyl as possible. But I know it's already vinyl on the other side, but.
In backyards, I don't know what the issue would be with vinyl. If it was along a street, I'd have a lot of concerns, but masonry, I think, could be kind of an overstretch a little in the backyards. And I think it would, in my opinion, I think vinyl fence is very suitable for backyards. like the Rhino Rock, I think they look kind of out of place unless it's throughout the whole community. And so that's just my opinion.
Right.
However, you can do whatever you
And
feel
Larry, the
necessary.
vinyl does fit the code, right?
Yes, yes.
Vinyl fits code. Okay, thank you. Well, good. So we'll be keeping as many trees as possible because we have Commissioner Sikoski here who speaks for the trees. So. You are within your time limit, so please come on back.
Concerning those trees.
Oh, we did close the public comment, didn't we?
Oh, sure.
Sorry. We can move to suspend the rules if anyone would feel so. Great. Does anybody have a first before a second?
Move to suspend the rules.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion to that motion? No problem. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great, please, speak your mind. Thank you.
Well, I had a question. There's several of those trees along, they're gorgeous, but there's several that are about ready to just topple. Are we going to have a good inspection on those so that they don't decide to topple on your new fence?
Right. Good point. Thank you. Come on back up.
If it pleases the city, we can do a tree mitigation plan where basically we can have a specialist come out and look at those, and then we could also submit a fencing plan as well prior to final plat. Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, we definitely want to make sure we address any citizen comments there. Thank you. All right, let's bring it back to the commission. Thoughts? Let's discuss. Commissioner Green.
I'm going to first direct a question to our illustrious city attorney. The garage is in the PRD zone. It requires that there be street-facing doors and that it be, even with the porch of at least 6 by 8. And it also can't have more than 50% of the linear-facing building front. And then it allows, then the last paragraph that the applicant points out allows for an alternative garage door treatment to be approved by the zoning administrator if the configuration of the lot or other existing physical condition of the lot makes the application of these standards impractical. When we have an entire development that doesn't meet the standard, and so what the applicant's asking is for the zoning administrator to make a blanket approval for a waiver of the rules, because that's the concept that they're proposing. Can we do that? Can we grant as part of a preliminary development plan or a subdivision plan a waiver for every lot in the development because it doesn't meet the requirements of the law?
So let me just clarify, which part are you saying does not comply where you're saying the waiver? Just the garage.
Because the garage has got to be recessed or in front of it's got to be recessed or behind the facade of the living area, the dwelling area, and there's got to be a 6 by 8 porch. And it also says that it can't comprise more than 50% of the ground floor linear. So we've seen from his pictures that it doesn't meet those. So and he's admitted that, well, the code allows for alternative door treatments. The alternative door treatment paragraph says that it can be approved by the zoning administrator if the configuration of the lot or other existing conditions of the lot makes the application of these standards impractical. So based on their design, they've packed these houses in. This is where I'm going. We've packed the houses in so that they, by default, have made it impractical. Can we allow that and have a standing waiver for every lot in the neighborhood to say it's impractical to have meet the code, so we're going to ask for alternative garage door treatments for every house in the neighborhood because we think it's impractical?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, but they do need to meet the code for each individual lot. So I'd say my main answer to your question is no, they can't have a blanket waiver. And impracticable can't be just because they have the number of units and density that they have. So I think it becomes the zoning administrator's prerogative to make sure that, and his duty to make sure that they, on each individual lot, meet the criteria. So I think I heard the applicant say earlier that he realizes that this design, as depicted in the pictures, is not going to be the one that fully fits our code. He's going to have to tailor that and apply that to our ordinances. So my answer is no, there can't be a blanket waiver. He's going to have to adapt these, the applicant's going to have to adapt these designs to fit our code, and the zoning administrator's job is to make sure that the code is met on each of the lots. The language, not impracticable or whatever that language was, is not the ability for the zoning administrator to completely ignore the law. That's only if there really is something that other than the density they picked. Maybe it's the peculiar terrain or feature or whatever, but it can't just be a blanket for the whole subdivision.
Thank you.
Commissioner Luthi.
Oh, I was going to ask staff, what is the minimum asphalt width for the roadways for a neighborhood such as this? Sorry, did I catch off guard? Sorry, what is the for a neighborhood like this, knowing that the sidewalk is going to be priced right up against the asphalt, what is the width of the asphalt, the minimum required for a neighborhood like this?
The minimum we go is 25 feet for actual asphalt.
Okay. And that would be the applicable for this. So the 27, it was 27 that's in the design, right? I swear that's what I just saw.
Yeah, the applicant mentioned it's 3 feet wider.
Correct, except for the fact that when we reduced that park strip sidewalk area by 3 feet, we gave the extra feet to the asphalt to provide for more parking. Our vice president was very big on making sure that we had enough parking and enough room to get through.
That's what I was worried about. If you're down to like 25 feet, you're going to get one lane through. And if your driveways don't allow for enough people to park in their own driveways, now everybody's on the street. And if you've got one-way traffic and everybody's in the street, I'm visualizing this nightmare.
Yeah, so we actually are working on a project in Mapleton right now where the asphalt is 25 feet wide. We have a hard time fitting down it when we've got all of our framers and everything.
Exactly.
So that was what kind of sparked this conversation. So if you look at the travel width, you've actually got 2 feet of gutter, give or take, on either side as well. So you're looking at 28 feet asphalt. Then you've got, so your curb to curb is your curb to curb.
So you'll have enough for double lane passing is what you're saying?
Yeah, you'll have enough to fit 2 cars by it, even if somebody's parked on one side or the other.
That's what I was concerned with. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right, but not both sides.
Can I?
Okay, right, so we've got a 3-car width, not a 4.
Can I chime in on Commissioner Green's concerns? There was actually 1 or 2 of those house plans that I scaled, and it barely met the 50-foot or 50% frontage. That's a common requirement also in the Highlands. However, one thing I want to say, it has never been my intent as a zoning administrator to blanket say that all of these would have garage doors features. And we have this discussion with the applicant is that the plans as far as either being the garages being flush or recessed, he would have to meet that. He's very well aware of that. And also that they would have to meet the garage frontage. I think on some houses, it actually breaks up the neighborhood to have maybe a wider garage or some garage door features. However, those are costly. You don't want to do all houses that way. But I've made it very abundantly clear to the applicant that he has to meet the ordinance. And my intent was to enforce that at final approval. Right now, and as he said, this site plan and this development plan here's a preliminary approval. And, so whatever you want to add to that we'd be good at this point.
My concern, just based on the way the response was, as well, the way I read the response from the applicant was, well, if we don't have anything that matches, we'll just ask the zoning administrator to fix it, and we'll add additional treatments. And what I don't want to do, where I'm going with this is, I don't want to go down a road where we're trying to put 8.5 units per acre in a development, and then the applicant says, well, impractical to meet the requirements of the code, so I'm going to come to you lot by lot and approve that. And that's where I'm putting this on the record, is that I don't want to go down that road. One, it's a workload issue for you to have to approve 48 different garage doors. But it also, to me, violates the intent of the code to say, well, you know, if I have a design, knowing that I have a design right now that doesn't meet the code, I'll just come and ask you for to put additional garage treatment on it so that I can get it past the code. And that's where I'm worried about, is that, you know, that's what would happen, is that, you know, just to make this fit, because for some reason 48 turns the you know, a great profit.
You know, and I want to go on the record tonight with everybody in the room that I won't go down that road. I will not do that, because I just don't think that's a good way to practice business. Yeah.
Right, so another way of saying it, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Green, what you're trying to say is, what is the difference between issuing a blanket policy versus just doing one at a time, but doing the same thing 48 times in a row?
And I think what we're talking about here is that the applicant has to understand that we're going to enforce the code. And the code requires no more than 50% frontage, and if they have to adapt their plan designs to meet the code and not just provide us a basic you know, that this is the house that Alpine Homes has used in 77 subdivisions between, you know, the last 10 years. If it means that they have to modify those in West Jordan, it means they have to modify those in West Jordan. That's what I'm trying to get at the point at, is that they can't use their standard design that they put in their slide presentation and then say, oh, I'm going to go and get the garage door fixed, because it's now impractical the way that we set up the site plan. Does that make sense? The other part of this, and well, I've still got the microphone a little bit. The other part of this is, I have to tell you, I have some serious issues with the buy-ups. And I know we talked a little bit in the pre-meeting. I have a serious problem with adding 6 picnic tables and 4 barbecue pits and giving somebody an extra house an acre. I know that the code says that we can have barbecue pits and public facilities, but to me that's a little bit of a stretch. I might buy the architectural features. You've got the lighting plan. The jogging trail, I don't buy that as a jogging trail for one bit. It's a piece of asphalt that goes through the park and goes along the west side of the project, and I don't think that deserves a buy-up. However, I don't know where if we drop the barbecue pits because it's part of a picnic area, we're talking about 0.4 acres, 0.4 units per acre, and if we talk about the jogging trail, we're talking about 0.15. We're only talking about 0.6 units per acre. I'm not sure that where they're at, if we drop that, if they wouldn't still be within the allowance of what they've done. To be honest with you, I don't like the amenities, and I think they were a stretch to meet city code so that you could try to buy up to get to the 8.5. I'd say 7.5 is probably more accurate, and it'd probably work better. But I agree with Commissioner Sikoski's earlier thing. I think on this development, it's probably time to move on.
Yes, Mr. Gardner.
And one thing I want to say about a 5.7 acre development. Now, we have the construction of Gardner Lane, the full width of Gardner Lane, full intersection at the point at Redwood Road, curb gutter sidewalk. Now, developers do that all the time. You know, out west we have them put in collector roads all the time, neighborhood collectors and that. However, not many of them, most of them are to 30, 40, 50 acres. And so it works out cost-wise a little better. And so I'm not advocating for the applicant, but I just want to make the planning commission aware that this 300 feet of road comes at a very high cost because you're only developing 5.7 acres of property, and you're putting in a road that will be used by everyone in that area, in the community. And so I just want to make you aware of that is a feature that will benefit the entire community. And so, like I said, I'm not advocating for the applicant, but I don't want that to be overlooked as a contribution to the community here.
Well, and I agree with you, but the developer also decided to develop a 5.7 acre of property and knew what the costs were going in. So, I mean, I agree with you, and you know, to be honest with you, I don't want another stoplight on Redwood Road, but that's a different story. So, you know, but I know where you're going, and so, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. It's not that I don't disagree with you.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Sikoski.
Based on the information set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission recommend approval for the preliminary development plan for Ganson Lane with a residential density of 8.5 units per acre for a total of 47 residential units on 5.7 acres, subject to the conditions of approval set forth in the staff report.
Commissioner Quinney.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Sikoski and a second by Commissioner Quinney. Is there any discussion to the motion? Commissioner Quinney.
Just making sure I understand. So the motion says 47 residential units. This is 48 up here.
Mine was incorrect. It is 48 and not 47.
It is 48. So we just need to make that.
Commissioner Sikoski.
So correction to the motion, 48 units.
Good for you, Commissioner Quinney, on the second?
I am good with that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion to that amended motion? Let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1 with Commissioner Green casting the dissenting vote. Commissioner Sikoski.
Based on the findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary subdivision plat for Ganson Lane located at approximately 8661 South Redwood Road, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report.
Commissioner Quinney.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Sikoski and a second by Commissioner Quinney. Is there any discussion to that motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1 with Commissioner Green casting the dissenting vote, which concludes our agenda this evening. Is there any other announcement from city staff for us?
Yeah, I wanted the Planning Commission to know that Scott and I have gone over your items from the joint meeting, and we're working on that. And also, we'll have a new senior planner start next week, and so that means that there'll be a lot of backed up ordinance amendments for the last 5 years, so just get prepared for that, because I figure that the winter there'll be many a meeting on ordinances, and you guys are always really good at making comments, what you think is best for the community, but there will be a slew of them coming, so. Okay, and there is, Julie, do we still offer the Utah EPA for the fall conference for any commissioners? Is there any budget left for that, or should we not be, you don't know?
If it's there, I want to go.
I'd highly recommend it. I've gone a couple of times, and it's been very
And I think
beneficial.
planning commissioners get a discounted rate. Yeah, so is there two that want to go? Okay. Three? Okay.
I just need to get the date again.
It's the Thursday, first Thursday in October. First Thursday, Friday in October, whatever. So will that be the second, third, fourth? So it'll be the 4th or 5th of October, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, if we could get the date, that might.
And it's in Park City, so And the way the weather's gone, there'll probably be 3 feet of snow by then.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Great. We stand adjourned until October.